Hey, so what's up guys, it's your boy Patience and I decided to come at you guys with a little new one. So in this one I couldn't resist the urge. So I got my hands onto the City Skylines 2 and I decided to kind of just get back into my little my groove mode. So this is how I like to get down when dealing with I guess you could say business, population management, etc. And so yeah, so I decided I'm gonna start this one. Obviously I had the first title, which was good, and I figured if I could get my hands onto this one I could probably see the improvements that they've made from the first title, and if anything what they could have done to make the title a hell of a lot better. Hopefully I won't have any critiques. It'll only be compliments and I'll be a completely 100% satisfied consumer. So as you can see here, it starts exactly like the first title. The problem that I had with the first title, which I'm unsure with this one, the only thing with this one is I'm getting a lot of screen blur and stuff. I do have my resolution quite high, which I think I may address somewhere later on in the video. But that's something that I do find quite annoying. Taking that into consideration, getting my hands on was a bit tricky. Things slightly changed from the first title, which I thought was not necessary, but I guess it's more user friendly. Taking that into consideration, my point, what I was trying to get to prior was in the first title, which I hope I will not find in this one, is it's called City Skylines. So as far as I'm concerned, the sky's the limit, I guess you could say. No sky's the limit. So I expect to really be pushed to the limits with this one. So I do want to be challenged with, I guess you could say, maths. And I want to be able to employ my staff. So as you can see here, I can see it's already kind of filled in this regard, where I want to employ my people to come and build the road out for me. I don't want to just plop and drop, because to me that don't make any sense. I'm in God mode view already enough as it is, so I would like to see I would like to put my my citizens to work, as it were, but I don't have that ability. So I can see that I'm just sitting here and I'm engaging with City Skylines 1 just in a highly, I guess you could say, a better resolution. I'm playing in better resolution. So far, that's about the only difference that I have. And out the box, the game has set my resolution, or set my my graphics, everything in my graphics to high. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Besides that, everything that I'm doing here in the graphics menu or in the sub menus is slightly different to how it was in the previous title, the first game, which is I've got my water pipes, which is what I'm preparing. Obviously you need your waste sewage situation, and then you run your pipes. But now you have two pipes, in and outs, or you can run each pipe of the in and out separately, solo. So that's a neat addition to the title, I guess you could say. And then as well, I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more hands-on with building the houses, but as you saw, it was more of a plop drop, just like in the previous game. So nothing's changed there, everything's exactly the same. So so what I'm looking for is an enhancement from the previous game. Everything that I could do in the previous game, I want to be able to do now, but now I want to be able to do more. So does that mean I can build an entire world as a city, or does that mean that I can now create my city on the moon as well as just on the planet, so I can do expedition from the moon back down to the planet? Do I have the whole planet to build on, or is it just half the planet this time? As to maps, because in the previous title I'm pretty sure it was maps the whole way through. So it did get boring after a while. Though yes, you can create some nice beautiful cities if you have that tender time to put into this title. As you can see at the moment, I'm just testing things out, so I'm just plopping, dropping and seeing how things work. It is very user friendly, which is very nice. I did use a tutorial to help me understand running Pipeworks a little better, because it was slightly different from the previous title. But once you understand how to lay your pipes and the electrics, you kind of got a good idea with how it works. So the other thing that I've got to learn now is how to, I can see it there actually, the bendy roads. I just got to select the bendy roads, because I was looking for those, but I couldn't find it when I was trying to find it. But it's right there in front of me, so that's funny. But anywho, so I decided, yeah, so as you can see with this title from the previous title, another thing that I kind of had a problem with was how quick you're able to just get down and start doing things. I would rather plan my land and then purchase my say, because I started off with $1 million, I want to purchase my my workers to come in. So I want to purchase builders or road layers, and they pave the roads out. So I do like a little planning, a pre-planning, and I say, right, I want this road to come out here, I want this road to come out here, and I work to you know, a budget, and I say, right, I'm only going to build this much of my locations. Once I've planned that bit out, then the workers come in. So I've got to pay for the planning, then I've got to pay for the workers. The workers now come in. I don't know how much they get paid an hour, so I'm limited to the amount of workers I can employ at one time. So I'm guessing about 20 to 50 workers. Maybe you hire a company and the company send workers, so maybe the company charges you. Maybe you have the option of both, because there's nothing wrong with having many options. This way they come in, they pave the roads, they make sure that the pipe works are in the right places that you want them. So everything's practically plopped and dropped from a manual point of view, from a manual perspective. Then you bring in the bricklayers. So the bricklayers are not the road layers. These are two separate, you know, workers, businesses, companies, however you want to put it. Then the bricklayers come in and they start building the foundations of your houses. But I want to have the ability to actually design my houses for my citizens. So I might say, I want these rooms to be 3 bedrooms, and I want these ones to be 1-bedroom houses. And this way I can kind of depict how my city is going to work out for me. So these ones that have a lot of rooms are likely going to be family homes. They're probably going to have one domineering worker, which would be the husband of the home. When his children grow, they're going to go to college and university. Maybe they become domineering workers as well of the home. So that would be the flourishing city where everyone kind of like goes to you know, help my city to expand. The 1-bedroom houses would be for the low-end workers, you know, and obviously you break it down like that, because not everyone wants to have a big family, or not everyone wants to have a big home, or not everyone wants a family as such, maybe not ready to have a family yet. So taking all these things into consideration, we then begin to plan schools, universities, and where the hospitals are going to be laid out. But because how this is, it's just plop and drop, just like the previous title, it makes it a bit hard, because you're kind of just thrown into the the pit, and then what you find yourself doing is building ahead of yourself, because you're given practically £1 million or dollars or euros, wherever you're from, however you want to look at it, And with this million, you can say, right, I want to build all these roads and I want to build all these houses. You don't really have that time to kind of like say, I want my city to grow and expand. Yes, it is a simulator, and yes, you can get caught up in being misled from that point. But as you can see here, I'm laying down this big factory, which is electrical. It's going to feed the whole city. Now, that bit is, if you ask me, kind of doesn't make sense. We would work our way up to that. So maybe we start with fire or coal, or another means of energy. So in order to get that means, we would have to find coal deposits, or so we'd have to drill for oil or whatever mineral. We'd have to go find oil, so I'd have to employ those members of staff from whatever company that is to go drill for coal, and then they'll bring it back by the bucket loads, and hopefully by the profit of that service that I have from the citizens in this locale, I'll be able to pay them with that profit. Chances are, in the proceeds of building my city, I'm going to run myself into debt. So I'm under the pressure, under the thumb, as it were. Obviously, companies are going to want to be paid when they want to be paid. So chances are I'm going to have to take out a loan. And then obviously you're going to have loan sharks. So what I'm thinking is going down the route where it's more like real world. Not from like I'm one of the citizens and I'm trying to build, like I'm renting homes, as it were, and trying to grow and expand it that way. But I'm actually an entrepreneur, as it were, and I'm saying I want to expand my company, but in a world domineering kind of fashion. So I don't just want to be like a kingpin player in my district, but I want to be like an enterprise. I want to be global. So that's my intention. That's my understanding of, or my translation of the term city skylines. It's not just creating literally a city and I draw a line and say that's about it. The idea is to build something that means something to me. So I want to build companies that rake in profits for me, so that I can make my world a beautiful place. But unfortunately, I feel like I've landed right back into my pot square one, which is I'm just building a city all over again, and there's nothing really much to it. Like, as you can see here, I'm building houses, but we got cranes. You don't necessarily need cranes to build houses, guys. That's like overkill, and that's breaking into the pockets quite a bit. You're gonna get yourself workers. I'll say about maybe 5 builders, maybe 3 to come and build your house from the ground up. I'll say about 5, and then because that's going to be done in a nice timely manner, depending on how much houses you're building at one time. Depends on how much. So if it's like 5 persons per house and you're building, let's say, 50 houses, then you're going to have 5 person per house building. Now let's say that each person building those houses are worth I don't know how much builders are worth nowadays. As you can see here, I'm playing just over 4K, which is not bad, but I'm assuming that's what causes the blurry screen as I kind of shift and rotate the camera. I've also lowered the res down to 4K, and I still get that shift blur. I don't dabble about in 1080p in any of my titles, not even in Star Citizen, so I shouldn't need to dull my my res down in this title either, because it's just a simulator building low-end cities, as it were. But the point is that the time needed to build and to craft and create is just not in this. If you go to a building site, you see cement being crafted, you see what are those guys called again? You got plasterers, you got bricklayers. I always forget the name of the guys that lay the wood, and but you've got those guys as well, the ones that lay the wood. You got electricians, etc., etc.,
Pending
etc.
updates to
So
our
to start
power
my
grid,
city off, I
the
might
city
say,
will be
okay, I'm going to borrow
experiencing
electric
rolling
from my
blackouts.
neighboring city.
We urge the
There may
public
be
to
a
remain
neighboring,
calm
if
during
not
these
city, then a
breaks and
neighboring
service,
town,
and to
and
follow
I
the
can borrow some of
guidelines
their
on the
electric.
city's
So I pay
website
them
on
until
how
I'm
to
able to
plan
buy
for
my
these
own
temporary
electric
events. This has
grid,
been a local public
or
service
invest
announcement.
into my own electric
Local
grid.
authorities are
Once
urging the
my
public to
city is up
conserve
and
water
running and
and reduce
everything's
the
looking
burden on the
good,
city
my
during
goal
this
then would
water
be to
shortage.
invest into a space station.
Consider
Now,
installing a low-flush
SimCity, if I'm not
toilet, cut
mistaken,
back
did
on
have that
watering the
kind of
lawn, and shower
approach.
with it.
You was able to kind of like invest into your neighboring towns, and then once you kind of like buddied up with them to a certain degree, then you was able to kind of like set your targets to this super structure. And I was actually enjoying that quite a bit, but SimCity was a dulled down version, or dumbed down version, or a dumbed up version to this title. So I weren't really enjoying enough. It weren't immersive. It weren't engaging. There weren't no challenges. I found myself in like hundreds of thousands of profits in like no time, and it was the same thing with City Skylines 1. I would always find myself like up like 50,000 in profit every week. So it was not really a challenge, and I feel like this one's not going to be a challenge either. Obviously, it is a simulator, so there's ways of not necessarily cheating the game, but beating the game. How do you do that? If you want to figure it out for yourself, now would probably be the time to cover your ears. But what I find works for me would be allowing your plop and drops to take that time to register into the simulator, to register into the world. So like you drop your electric grid, I've got 3 houses or 4 houses, you leave it there for, you know, like maybe 20 minutes to an hour. I usually like to leave it for about an hour, sometimes way longer than that. This way the game gets used to the mechanics of, you know, like dealing with the bins, how much bin men are needed, and how much electricity is going out, and etc, etc, etc. So now when you plop a new you know, situation, whether it might be a police station or, you know, a hospital, or you've kind of created a new grid of houses, like a new little town, then the game is prepared to kind of like adjust its new task. So it say, all right, so let's say I'm sending like 5 dustbin trucks down this road, and they're serving all these houses, and by 3 o'clock, from 9 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., everything's done. We've collected all the rubbish from all the citizens within this district. You create a whole new district. Let's say it pertains of like 30 homes, maybe 50 homes. And so now what the game's going to say is, right, in order for me to continue my services and finish at the same time, 3 o'clock, I'm going to need to send another 5 vehicles out. Taking that into consideration, that your dustbin services might say we might even need to employ more people. You got to take into consideration that time is a thing in this, and one thing that I loved about this is the clock is not just ticking away on this kind of like mad one, but it's 4:45. I believe the time is reading there somewhere there anyway, and though it's not one-to-one with us, it's a hell of a lot slower, so it feels a lot more realistic, and I do like that a lot, because you get to engage with not just your managerial side, but also with your observation, and just allowing that time to just sink in with the with your city or your town. So everything, you know, you're not necessarily rushing. you can check your profits, your income, your outgoings, and I feel like that's more engageable. I feel like that's more immersive. I feel like it's a little bit more personal. So I don't necessarily speed the dials my darn self. The only time I do that is if I'm already making like 50,000 profits a week or whatever it be. And then like maybe I'll speed it up because I ain't going into loss and I want to hurry up and buy something. Then I might speed the dials, and that would be a big might. As you can see here, I'm not trying to create anything else. If I do create anything else, it'd be either the working stations, creating jobs, or building shops, and somewhere there is where I'll leave it and just allow the simulator to work into itself, get used to itself, and then I'll slowly build from there. And that's how I tend to find this title works best, giving it that time to get used to itself. And so in that regard, I do appreciate this title a lot. There's no maths that go into this particularly. You just got to keep your wits about you. So you got to say, I've got new people. You got to check your charts every now and then to see the spikes, or the volatility of your town, the age and everything. So you really do have to pay attention to your citizens, because you do have to kind of buy what do you call this, like healthcare services, both funerals and hospitals and all this stuff, so just to ensure that they are otherwise, if you find that a lot of your citizens are dying and you're not able to service them in any way, then you're going to have like a city crash, and you don't want to have that. I've never necessarily really had a financial crash. I have had financial crashes, but not necessarily. It's usually due to like offset things, not necessarily because businesses are maybe too greedy. I've never had to like kind of sanction a business or anything like this, so it's not like I'm like god tier and at the same time like a government. I'm just like an overseer and just kind of like plopping and dropping, which, if you ask me, is not necessarily really so fun. The only fun thing is seeing the beauty that comes of all this plopping and dropping if you're a good designer. I'm not necessarily too bad my darn self. The current keyboard that I'm using doesn't necessarily have numpads. I'm able to achieve certain things that a numpad can do a lot easier with a numpad, obviously, than the keyboard that I have, which is obviously a little downside. But taking that into consideration, I'm able to build nice looking cities, and my intention is to invest into building something that's going to be pretty darn beautiful, and this is what we're going to be building from, guys. My immediate goal, or my sights are pointing towards an airport. I can't wait to get my first airport, guys. So that's the one that I'm going to be working towards. I can't wait to see how that works in this title. Taking that into consideration, another thing that I want to criticize is how big some of these properties are. I'm not sure if I ever take a nice like kind of pan outwards so we can get a view on the whole situation. But a lot of the property take up a lot of space on the land, so that's another thing that I think is another downside. I would rather see a lot of these properties kind of like shrunk down a little bit, so I feel like I'm on a country, maybe. I think that would be a hell of a lot better, just for realism and believability, I guess you could say. As you can see here, I'm running the pipes. It's a bit more technical in this one because it's almost kind of like done for you. It's a little bit more realistic, but at the same time it's a little bit more slap on the wrist kind of thing, because again, you're not sending workers in there to go and literally dig, drill and build new pipes. It just plants pipes as you build your roads, which I think is a bit it's a bit too sloppy, a bit too lazy, a bit too fast paced. So I think what they need to do is slow things down a hell of a lot more, and allow that time to like invest into some of the tradesmen that we will grow to respect quite dearly, if not already, because a lot of these tradesmen do build our houses, they do build our homes and our roads and our infrastructures. And when you see the time and care that goes into a lot of these things, and the amount of maths that go into these things, you learn to appreciate building and crafting and workmanship just that little bit more. And it's that appreciation that I want to try and capture when I get my hands onto these titles, not just a beautiful looking city. So here you can see I'm able to delete my pipes, and this is without the numpad. I thought I needed to use my numpad. If it weren't my numpad, you need that kind of page up, page down, and I don't have that on my current keyboard, guys. So that was another issue. But taking that into consideration, this is City Skylines, and it will always be a City Skylines, nothing new to me. So I am slightly disappointed here, and it was one of the reasons why I didn't want to get it ASAP, but I took my eyes off it. I figured I would get it, because if it weren't going to be this, it was going to be another title, which again I don't want to invest my time into, not at least for now, especially not in alpha states. But anyway, guys, it's your boy Patience. I hope you like what you be season and heard, and if you did, you leave those thumbs and those likes and those comments down below, and if you have any queries, guys, over and out.